الحمد لله الحمد لله الذي ألف بالإسلام بين قلوب المؤمنين وأوجب الاتحاد وحرم التفرق في كتابه المبين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله هدى من يشاء إلى صراط المستقيم. وأشهد أن سيدنا محمد رسول الله خير داع إلى طريق القويم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الذين تحببت نفوسهم وتهدت قلوبهم فكانوا سادة المنصورين. أما بعد، فيا عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي أولا بتقوى الله تعالى وطاعته. That is, all praise is due to Allah, who has united the hearts of the believer in Islam and has made it an obligation to remain united, and has made it forbidden to become separated in His clear book. I bear witness that there is nothing worthy of worship except Allah, who guides to the straight path whom He wills, and I bear witness that our leader Muhammad is His messenger and the best caller to the way that is straight. O Allah, send your prayers and your peace upon our leader Muhammad, and upon his family, and upon his companions, whose hearts were united, and whose souls were educated, so that they became victorious leaders. And what follows thereafter, O believers of Allah, I advise you, as well as I advise myself, to first have the proper regard for Allah, and thereafter be obedient to Him. Dear believers, I greet you with the universal greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be with you. I want us to discuss a very simple concept today, a very simple subject that we should have no problem with understanding. And for those of you that may be viewing this, that may be new to the religion of Islam, or may not even be Muslim, when you hear me mention the term Allah, I want you to take in the term God. I want you to substitute that for the word God, just so it can help you to understand the message that is being presented, inshallah, or God willing. Allah says in the Qur'an, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, He says, "Then do you remember me, I will remember you. Be grateful to me and reject not faith." So you remember me, I will remember you. Be grateful to me and do not reject faith. So often in our life, we think of all these things that we have to do, and the things that we have to do, there's certain things that we have to remember. There's certain things that we have to recall from experiences, recall from something that someone told us, something that someone taught us. We have to recall these things. We have to remember these things. And many of us, we can remember the first time we ate a certain food, the first time we went to a certain place. We can remember so many things, phone numbers, information that we've gained from school. And we apply that every day. Some of them. Some of these things that we remember, we apply. We remember how to walk. We apply that every day. We remember how to, if we have a specific job, we remember how to do that job from the training that we had. And we apply that every day. These things that are on our mind that we recall and we're always thinking about. You know, we get caught up on birthdays. Remember my birthday. Remember this day. Remember the Alamo. Remember the, never forget. You know, we have these different sayings that we say to still call to our memory these things. And when we remember them, they invoke certain emotions in us. They invoke certain feelings that we have. But Allah says, remember me. How often is it that we remember Allah? How often is it that we remember God in our day-to-day activities? before we make certain decisions? Do we wait until the decision does not, or the response to the decision does not go the way that we want, that now that we're turning to God? That we remember God when we're suffering? We only remember Allah when we're having turmoil, or when we're experiencing something that's not pleasing to us? Is that the only time? The same way that we remember something on our job, our day-to-day activities, that can only be achieved through God's will, do we remember God in that? Do we remember Allah in that? Do we remember Allah when we get in the car and we drive to work? Do we remember Allah when we get out the car? Do we remember Allah when we're about to eat? Do we remember Allah before we get on the internet? Do we remember Allah before we get into certain conversations with people that we know are not going to be productive? How often do we call Allah to mind? How often do we call God to mind throughout the day? Allah says, remember me and I will remember you. Do we care? Do we care that Allah says He will remember us? Do we care that God is telling us that He will remember us if we remember Him? But we care more about asking someone that we shared an experience with before in life, hey, do you remember me? Do you remember that time? Do you remember the first time that Allah helped you today? Do you remember the first time that Allah helped you in your life? And so often we cannot go back and recall the first time that we were helped by Allah. We cannot recall the time that we were first helped today by Allah, because we'll overlook so many things. Someone will say, well, the first memory of Allah helping me today was me waking up this morning. But you were breathing prior to that. So it's very hard for us to quantify or to even list out all the different things that Allah has done for us. But we should take that idea, or that same energy that we have for remembering everything else that we feel that benefits us. We should apply that to remembering Allah, because it is with Allah that we can do any of those things. So that should govern our actions. That should govern the way we carry ourselves. That should govern the way we present ourselves. The remembrance of Allah is beneficial for you, because Allah says that He will remember you, and He asks you to be grateful. So if I'm being grateful in the things that I have, if I'm being grateful in the things that I'm able to do, I'm remembering Allah. I'm remembering Allah in that moment. I'm bringing Allah to mind, so I don't get stuck in myself. I don't get caught up in my own ego. I don't get caught up in my own desires or my own feelings of self-satisfaction because I feel that I've done something. I remember that Allah allowed me to do that. Maybe I make a lot of money. Maybe I drive a nice car. Maybe I have a beautiful family. Maybe all the things in life that I ever wanted, I have. I have to remember Allah, even in the good times, not just in the bad times. I remember Allah by being thankful. I remember Allah by making prayer and showing my willingness to submit. I remember Allah by making zakat, by paying zakat. I remember Allah by fasting during the month of Ramadan. I remember Allah by making the pilgrimage if I'm able. All these different things that I'm doing, all these different things that are laid out in the religion of Islam are for the remembrance of Allah, so that you do not forget, so that you are constantly reminded and constantly governed by this idea or this concept that there is something greater than you. There is something more powerful than you. Something that you will be returning to. So dear believers, remember Allah. Allah says, then do you remember me, and I will remember you. Be grateful to me, and reject not faith. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Then do you remember me, and I will remember you. So in our mind, we're thinking that if I remember Allah, Allah is going to remember me. So typically when we have these ideas, or we make these, or we see these statements regarding Allah doing something that is similar to what a human does, similar to what we do, we make these assessments, or we make these judgments of what Allah's capacity is or capability is. But Allah also says in the Qur'an, no just estimate do they make of Allah. So when Allah says in the Qur'an that remember me and I will remember you, we think that that implies that Allah has or Allah will forget us, or that Allah's memory is like our memory. If I don't remind Allah, or if I don't think about Allah, Allah is not going to think about me. But this is not the case. This is not the case. This is just for our understanding. Allah knows every leaf that falls. Allah is well aware of everything. So whether we remember Allah or whether we do not remember Allah, Allah is still in control of everything. Allahu Alam, Allah knows best. But for us, for our comfort, for our improvement, Allah says, remember Allah, remember me, and I will remember you. So that when we put Allah on our mind, when we become aware, we become God conscious, we remember Allah, that brings us closer to realizing that Allah is thinking of us. It makes us more aware of what Allah is doing for us in our lives. If I don't think about Allah, when I'm in success, when I'm being successful, when I'm achieving all of these things, then I won't realize that it was Allah's will that allowed me to do that. And if I don't realize that it was Allah's will that allowed me to do that, then I will not, in my mind, come to the conclusion that Allah was thinking of me. That Allah was thinking of me when He gave me the physical capabilities that I have, the mental capabilities that I have, to be in the environment, or to be amongst those who can assist me in progressing or improving my life. I won't take that into consideration, that all of these things throughout the span of my life, or maybe into the life of those before me, that had to take place for me to get to the position that I'm even in, had to happen because of Allah's will. And in that moment, in that span of time, Allah remembered me, Allah thought of me, but I wouldn't be able to fully understand or recognize that until I remembered Allah in that moment. And even when I'm in trauma, even when I'm in a bad situation, and I take the time to remember Allah, I then recall all those instances or situations before then that I may have experienced, or I may have heard of someone else experiencing, and see how they got through it, and see what benefited them in those very same experiences. And I call that to mind. And I think that there is a way out. And so then I can come to the conclusion that Allah made it possible for me to remember that instance, so that I could that I could pull through whatever that situation was. And Allah thought of me even in somebody else's situation, because Allah knew that I was going to see that situation or see that encounter, however it turned out, and it was going to benefit me in my current situation. So Allah says, remember me and I will remember you. Be grateful to me and reject not faith. So be grateful to Allah. Be grateful to Allah for your memory. Be grateful to Allah for having things that happen in our life and in the life of others that we can recall that can benefit us. And when we take the time to just simply reflect on our Creator, to reflect on we cannot encapsulate, we cannot fully appreciate everything that our Creator has done for us. We cannot. There's no way. So to even assume or to present a position that we can would be a false proposition. So remember Allah. Remember what Allah has done for you. Remember what Allah has done for others. Just remember Allah. The same way you remember your mother's birthday. The same way you remember your favorite song. The same way you remember how to put on your left shoe. The same way you remember how to put a hat on your head. The same way you remember how to cook your favorite meal or to open a bottle of water. This is the level that we should be remembering Allah in everything that we do. Because if it was not for Allah, we would accomplish nothing. If it was not for Allah, we would experience nothing. So dear believers, remember Allah and He will remember you. Be grateful for everything. Be grateful and do not reject faith. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. إن الصلاة ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا أول المسلمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين.